Now, it's been a hot minute since we did a non-live Q&A on YouTube, so I figure why not compile a bunch of your guys' questions from both Instagram, email, client questions, etc., and we'll just kind of throw them together, run through 9 or 10 of them. I get long-winded. I know if I compile more than like 10, this video is going to be way longer than I intended. So once again, if you're new to the channel, you don't know me, my name is Seth Green. I run the Capital Performance Solution, and here we work to build a body that matches your bank account. Our main goal is to get wealthy men to have the body status that matches the wealth they have already built. We do that with whole genome sequencing, blood work, peptides, hormone replacement, and obviously manipulating diet, exercise, etc. Basically, I take you in, we build you a custom plan based on your work schedule, your lifestyle, your goals, and we apply that and do it in a done-for-you fashion. If you need to know any more about the actual offer and everything I provide, there's a 40-minute video, I believe, on my channel. I'll link it down in the description below that goes over everything from point A to point B. Now, as for questions, we have the famous Runvus one, but I'm not going to do that one first. I'm not giving you guys that one. So we're going to skip Garrett for a second. So Kid Lacusta, he asked me for a cut 250 test E, 500 mast, 300 primo, and 4 I use GH. Now that is a like sacred stack of the dead, considering you can barely find mast and primo nowadays, but I love that. I think it's a little high in the DHTs, but it depends on how your body responds to estrogen, really, when it comes down to it. So when you have that low a test, if you're a heavy aromatizer, which means you convert to estrogen extremely heavy, that can create side effects where your estrogen's too high, you start feeling like a woman on her period. You get brain fog, your nipples get sensitive, you're really bloated, water retentive. Not a good place to be in. So that helps mitigate some of that. Now, if it's too low, you're going to have some of the similar issues, but you're going to be more lethargic and your sex drive is going to be floored. Generally, you're pretty apathetic. You don't feel super great. You want to be careful of that. Make sure you're doing the blood work and on top of it, especially if you're going to be doing this kind of a ratio. I assume he's ran some cycles before and knows what he's doing, but if not, definitely want to look at that. 4 IUs of GH is fine for slightly above a replacement dose. I would say 4 to 6 for most people is a good spot. If you're really trying to push it, really trying to stay lean, I got some guys who are trying to push the bodybuilding look a little bit more. Then you want to run up to 8 to 10. But I'd say most of my guys who are 40s, 50s, they run 4 to 6, somewhere in there. So that's not a bad spot to be in. But generally, you run it as high as you can without having side effects with GH. Kind of the opposite of your testosterone, etc. You want to run the lowest possible dose to get the most out of it. How do I get genetic testing? Looks interesting. So the genetic testing I do, you can't get commercially. I have a special deal through a clinic to get it. So you can do like the 23andMe or some of the methylation tests, but you won't get the full 30x whole genome sequencing gamut that I have. With that, we have custom reports also built for my clients and my clientele based on what they feel like they need and what I need to see to build them the best plan. So within that, ours goes over like 15,000 conditions, how you metabolize certain nutrients, how you metabolize certain hormones, including GH, testosterone. There's a lot. Ancestry data, methylation test is included in there. So you think a lot of those companies like Dana White's, Grant Cardone, all them, they have that $700 methylation test. That's one small part of what we offer with ours. And then you also get consultations with a geneticist and there's nutritionist reports. So you get special custom reports from like nutritionists, trainers, etc. I interpret it myself and kind of go off that, but the reports make it super simple to understand. I'll tell you exactly what this defect is, what it means, what it does, what to keep an eye on. And then you combine that with your blood work, and then we know, okay, what do you respond super well to? And then what can we build the plan off of there? It really makes it super easy because we have all the data. We have your genetic data plus your hormonal data and obviously the transient data with the blood work that sometimes changes. We can dial things in a little better, but that way we have the full gamut. And then when we're making changes to your plan, we have all kinds of data to do it. Now, there is some logging on your side. If you do join my program, like I do want you to track your food. I want you to track your weights and how you're feeling every day, your training, your sleep, your work performance, etc. Scale 1 to 10. And, in a vacuum, day to day, you're going to have fluctuations, but I look at bigger sample sizes and then assign scores based on the sample sizes. So that way we have a standardized way of attacking things. So it's standardized. We have data. We're making smart decisions. It's not like, oh, I feel bloated today. Well, fuck it. We're going to change your diet. Like, we don't make rash decisions. I look at the long-term data, see how you're doing, do a video check-in with you and make sure that we're making smart decisions driven by data to actually move the needle forward. So yes, you can get genetic testing done cheap with those websites. I think it's like $200. Ours isn't cheap because it's clinical grade. I'm gonna be 100% honest on that. So you can get a small portion of it done online if you want to, but you're not gonna get the full picture. It's not the same thing. It's kind of like going to your doctor for your yearly physical. You know, they'll give you that blood work that's like, they charge insurance like $200, but it's like, if you get a lipid panel done, it's $4 dude. Like, cause I have internal access. I can order straight from LabCorp and Quest. I can see the actual prices. Like a lot of this stuff is only $4 to $10. And that's what your doctor orders usually. And then they bill insurance like $200 for it. And they're like, oh, my insurance covered it. And then I'm like looking at it. I'm like, bro, you could have got the whole test done for $10. Like, it's fucking insane. But yeah, you compare that to getting a full hormone panel done with your testosterone, estrogen, etc. It's like day and night. You have so much more data to build off of and know how you're going to apply it to a plan and a stack to make sure that you're getting the best results. That's the difference. So would I go out and get just the 23? Like if you want to see ancestry data and that's all you care about, like sure. If you want to see just the methylation part of it, sure. If you actually want the full picture, save your money. Like don't even go do it. Although most of the guys I work with are fucking high ballers anyway. They don't give a fuck. But invest in the real value, you know, get the full fucking thing done in one go instead of trying to piece together a bunch of shitty Walmart brand parts into a weird fucking puzzle. The DIY solution doesn't work on this one. Let's put it that way. So next question. Why don't you work with people making 100K? Because I'm not fucking cheap. When it comes down to it, like I'm not going to get you on the phone and sit there and try to take your fucking last dollar, if I'm being honest. Now, there are people that make under 100K that are in finance or have a business. Obviously, tax situations arise, or if they're in an S corp or something, they might only pay themselves a smaller salary and they have more capital or more assets to put towards it. Now, those guys I don't mind. They're just like, hey, just let me move money over from my portfolio. I got you. Like, that's fine. Some people need the financing options too. We have financing options, 0%. But you very rarely am I going to take somebody who doesn't make minimum, because I don't want to water down the program. Now, every once in a while, I get somebody who's been a long-term follower. They really want to do it. They're like, the price doesn't fucking matter to me. Like, let's go. And they have that same mindset, that same go-getter mindset, and they're trying to build themselves up. And in that case, those rare cases, I'm okay with it. There's a community, et cetera, involved with this. And I'm all for networking. And generally the same thing. Like those guys who make a lot of money, they were in the same spot at one time. Like they weren't making fucking $1 million out of the room, you know? So they don't mind it either. But I'm not going to invite some like broccoli haired fucking kid in and then have everybody pissed off. Like, why the fuck is this person in here? You know, there's a certain standard you have to hold people to. And I don't want a bunch of dividend douchebags and fucking destitute Denny's and guys asking for discounts and refunds and fuck that. Like, there's so many better high quality people out there that want to improve. Why the fuck am I going to serve a bunch of people that are pains in the asses or just like seeking drugs and shit? Like, fuck that. That's what I did in physical therapy for 10 years. I worked. You have to take every patient that comes in. Murderers, rapists, fucking broke people that don't want to be there. Like, you just have to work with them. I can choose who I work with now. So I'm not going to be working with people who drag the quality of my program down, period. That's what it comes down to. And yeah, I mean, you can get shredded if you're not making 100K. Like, I'm not saying you can't get shredded, but at the same time, there's a certain set of standards I have to have. My TRT clinic wants to keep me at 450 nanograms and take a Remedex once a week with my SHA stack. No, I would actually, when you see your doctor, give him the fucking George Bush, just take your shoe and just fucking throw it at him, you know? Burn the fucking clinic down. Don't actually do that. That's not me telling you to. That's a joke. That fucking sucks, dude. I would go to a different clinic immediately. I don't know what you're paying for that, but the whole point of TRT is to put you up into the upper levels of normal. Like, if you're going from 200 to 400, you're not going to even feel a difference in the first place. Maybe if your sleep was off or something extreme, but that's also ridiculous making you take a Remedex with it because that's an AI. So it's probably crushing your estrogen at that low a dose. Unless you're an extreme outlier. Then again, I don't have your genetic test to see. Maybe you just don't process testosterone. What the fuck? And maybe he's got you on 200 milligrams a week or something at that point. But generally in that case, he's keeping you super low because he's afraid to bring you up higher and let you perform better. Because a lot of doctors are stuck in the fucking Stone Age. And then just taking a Remedex prophylactically is just like you only take anti-breast cancer drugs to drive your estrogen down when you need them. You don't just take them for the fun of it. And the fact that it's only one time a week is also kind of dangerous because now you're having this big peak and then you drop off the whole week. So you probably feel like shit at the end of the week. Not only that, but they're having you peak. They're taking your estrogen down and then that's going to climb down as you go also. So you probably feel lethargic and like shit. It's probably why you're asking this question, why your testosterone is still low on the range. I would find a different clinic, 100% at the minimum. Obviously, get your own blood work done. The cool thing with TRT, you can take pretty much the whole process into your own hands. You can get the blood work, you can get everything. Obviously, if you know where to get testosterone, you can do that too. Not promoting that here if it's not legal in your country, but you can get all this stuff yourself if you want for cheaper than what the clinics do. If you know what you're doing, and a lot of times can do it better than some of these doctors who are fucking idiots. I will say the younger doctors seem to be more involved. The clinic I work with, it's funny, they're actually all females, but they're super, super optimization heavy. Like, they don't give a fuck. Like, anything that makes you feel good and that's within the legal constraints of what they can do to get you performing your best, like, that's what they're trying to do. Perform at your best. Not just, oh, well, on the paper, you're in the middle of the range because you're at 400. And here's the thing. A lot of labs, there's variance in the range of testosterone. I think most of them in the US, it's like 920 or 1100 is kind of where it's at. But there's variance in the labs. Some labs top out at like 800 as like their top of range for normal testosterone because they're just taking a median. And maybe they've done it recently with the 20-year-olds with lower testosterone because of environmental factors. So now the average range is only 100 to 800, whereas your grandfather was 1200, you know? So it's based on how you feel and how you're performing more so than the number on the piece of paper. Yeah, no, that seems like a fucking dumpster fire, if I'm being honest. But yeah, I would make a change there. If you had $3K to put towards peptides, so this guy ain't cheap, which ones would you get? If I had $3K, I probably have $3K worth in my fridge, to be honest with you. But definitely retatrutide, whether to keep lean during, a period of time where you're putting on weight, or like if you're trying to bulk, if you're trying to cut, it's great for that. And then also if you are an executive or somebody who travels a lot, like a lot of times it's hard to keep the food perfect. Because let's be honest, a lot of airports, it's hard to find like decent food at the airport. It really is. But generally, like once you land and you're out and about, you're in a city, you can find a place. You can find a fucking Greek place or, a place that serves fish, Asian food, whatever. Like you can find that. But the airport itself sometimes is all fast food or shit depending on your terminal. If you fly private, it's not as much of a problem. But I have guys who have problems with the private stuff because of a private chef that makes the food for their whole company or something, right? One of my Chris's has this problem. So the chef makes all the food for them a week ahead of time. It's frozen, put in there. They get fucking top of the line stuff. They get like elk and all kinds of good cuts of meat. But they're pre-measured, pre-put out and all that. So it's like when I go to take away food or change his meal plan to help him lose fat, now we got to play around with this and the chef's already made it, kind of put it there. And he's going to bring the scale to work. He does in his office, but it's like if he's out in the cafeteria, is he going to go? He's the boss, he could, but he wants to be there with his employees and be present and everything too. So we have to find a way to walk that line. Reddit helps in those kind of situations also because it really regulates the blood sugar and helps you burn fat in the background. I would say that SLUPP, essentially exercising at rest, being able to burn fat is huge. GH or some GH secretagogues, whether it be testosterone, GH, or any of the fun ones there. Whatever you can get your hands on, especially if you're above the age of 40 for sure. And then for me personally, melanotan, because I'm pasty as fuck. So having that help with both sex performance plus skin tone is nice. And epitalon. Epitalon is probably one too. I got a video coming out on that. Actually, my editor's had it for a while. He's really going all out on it, supposedly. We'll see when it gets released. But that being able to lengthen your telomeres, actually reverse some of the effects of aging, improve your sleep, I think that one is probably one of the highest potential peptides we've seen out there. I'm kind of surprised somebody hasn't picked it up and ran with it. But then again, most drugs are more looking towards how can we stop you from dying instead of actually extending life or letting you optimize and improve. Like there's not a big enough market for that because most people don't give a shit about anything other than rotting away on the couch and hoping to be around longer, like as their health is already shit. That's when they go to the doctor. They don't do any proactive healthcare. But I would say probably those would be the ones I would choose. There's some other ones that maybe I would dip my toe into, but they're kind of the bread and butter at this point. Now, the one that some of you degenerates are here for is Garrett's cycle. 1 gram of test, 300 of EQ because EQ nukes his test. Now, that's not his current cycle because he told me his current one. But this is one of his previous ones. And honestly, I think he had to drop the E2 down or the EQ down because it was tanking his EQ even further on that one. Right now, he's not taking EQ. It's something else. I think he's at like 750 tests. I could ask him again. He told me probably 2 weeks ago. But yeah, I mean, that's the idea, especially with there's primo shortage. If you're going to avoid taking Arimidex or something like that, you want to put your anabolic load up. And yeah, EQ works as a really good substitute for that. Just have your blood work done, be on top of it, make sure you're not being stupid. I kind of got a wide variety across the board in terms of like clients. Some guys want to push the optimization part of it and look like The Rock and be killing it at work. Other people are like, hey, I'm not trying to push it too much. I just want to be shredded and still kill it at my job, kill it with the family, like look the best out of anybody at the pool in the summer. So like those guys, I would definitely dial that down and be like, 350 tests is probably enough for most of them. But depends on the person, depends on the goal. For Garrett, he was pushing size at that point. He didn't give a fuck. That's why he was on a gamma test. What peptides do your highest earning clients use to stay locked in? Good question. Because actually, two of the highest earners don't really use cognitive peptides. They like the fat loss ones looking good because they already feel pretty good mentally. For them, it's more looks. I have one guy who that's the only thing we do, basically. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head because it's in a private chat. I know for a fact because we have a couple different protocols. So he has one where his biggest thing is a higher state of being, period. But he wants periods of time where he can push 18 to 20 hours of really hard work. Say if they're establishing a new project. Trying to not give away too much information. If they establish a new project in a foreign country, right? So they're trying to build something and he's got to go through all the investment part of it. And he's really working hard. They got travel, time zone changes, etc. And he's got to be at the top of his mental game and manage the team. And he wants to put his team on a peptide stack also to make it so they can work 18 to 20 hours to complete that as fast as possible and then get the capital invested in and bounce to the next project. In terms of that, like a crunch time like that, we have it laid out to where they're running Bretta for blood sugar control more than anything to keep them sharp. So like if you eat, sometimes your blood sugar will spike. So having the Bretta in place helps a little bit with that. But then we're looking at things like Samax, Salang. Now I actually like these brain strips here. Some Tropic brain strips. So yeah, we get them in Tropics, alpha GPC, L-theanine, paroxethine, alpha GPC. And then nicotine's a good one too, for short bursts. But I'd say, yeah, Samax, Salank, and you have to kind of play with those too. Some people respond better to one than the other. It's kind of hit and miss on those. Also, methylene blue. That's probably the biggest one. Obviously, the pill form is much easier, especially if they're traveling. But I still feel like the dropper does so much better than the pill. Like I've even taken up to 40 milligrams. I don't feel it nearly as much as just like 20 drops out of the dropper, like directly in, whether it's there or you put it in water. Productivity's through the roof, completely dialed in at that point. So we try to maximize that. And then while we're using stuff like that, like Epitalon, especially in a recovery phase right after for about 20 days, if they're really pushing hard, getting that deep sleep. So then you kind of transition into your GH secretagogues. Like you still want to be taking the background dose of that just to get really good deep sleep for the limited sleep they're getting. But we want to time that up so they're taking it right before bed and not waking up groggy. And then like when we go into a recovery phase, you probably up that dose of the GH a little bit, Epitalon, anything that can promote better recovery. Some people like to take BPC. I still don't see the application for it just to take it. Like some people are like, well, it's up in my inflammation. I'm like, your blood markers didn't even show your inflammation was high or your genetic test. Like, why the fuck are we taking it when your inflammation is not even high in the first place? Some of those guys like taking the BPC just prophylactically. I don't always advise it, but they want to. So I just kind of let them do it. It's their body, their choice. But people that want to take it, especially for gym performance, is stupid because your body does that whole recovery process and that's how you build muscle. So why the fuck are we trying to stunt that process with BPC? Now, I think BPC is great for injury recovery, for if you have inflammation in the spot that's bothering you. If you have the chronic, like I think it's Crohn's specifically that the oral version helps with. I'm trying to remember. I had a guy I did a consultation with. He had either Crohn's or it was some kind of GI disease. It might have been Crohn's. And actually BPC cured it for him. I've heard of people saying it can help, but I haven't actually had somebody on a consultation face to face and be like, no, dude, this like actually helped. So that was cool to see. So it does help with that. It does help. But yeah, just for taking it for the sake of taking it. I mean, if you want, but I don't see the practical benefit. I always crash after lunch and want to improve my focus for daily trades. So I assume you're a day trader. What would you recommend? The R word. I think I said it a couple of times in this video. No word on YouTube anymore. I don't actually sell it directly or anything. So YouTube gods, leave me alone. Yeah, I would say something like that where it regulates your blood sugar. If you're on that, that kind of takes care of that on its own. Yeah, that'd be your best bet. Or just not eat quite as many carbs around lunch. Maybe push them towards the afternoon more. If you work out after work, then I would go ahead and take it like your bigger carb meal around like 3 or 4 o'clock before you get out. Or if you train in the morning, you want to slam more carbs before you go in, because a bunch of protein right when you wake up just sits in your stomach, doesn't work well. I generally have my guys work out super early and just do more of a carb shake and then sip on their intra workout. During the workout, then eat more of their protein right after the meal, just so it's not sitting in their stomach. So it's a little bit context dependent there. But yeah, if you're eating a lot of carbs, that would be why. If your sleep fucking sucks, that could be why. If it is a blood sugar related issue, then yeah, I wouldn't like jump to insulin or anything unless you're actually pre-diabetic. Then you might need to look at that. But there's a lot of gray area there. I'd have to dig into it more and look at it and then kind of see. Along with a trainer for 2 years, noticed you get guys shredded. We haven't really gotten close to that look yet. Is there something he doesn't provide that I need to bring up to him? I've used some peptides and I keep him with me for 8K a month. Oh, damn. Guy's getting paid. But I'm second guessing that now after you called it out and showed some of your guys one of your videos. Yeah, not that 8K a month is actually anything. Like fucking peanuts if you run your own thing. But for just being a trainer for one person, like one training fee, like shit. Unless he's like, keep him with me. Yeah, well, if he's traveling with you, I understand. But yeah, if you're just like one client he's working with and you're paying him that much and he's got like other clients too, like you're overpaying for that service if he's not doing the other shit. If we haven't gotten close to that look yet, I assume he's not managing your diet. That is the biggest thing. Like, it's funny. It's so many guys get on a call with me too. Like, I got my diet down. Like, I don't need that. I just need the peptide. I need the TRT. I need XYZ. I need expertise on the genetics, the blood work. They're all interested in those things. And those are important. Don't get me wrong. But your diet is literally the number one mover. Like, if somebody lets me run their diet, their blood work improves immediately. Like, their blood work does, their body composition, their fucking focus, everything improves on the diet. And I cannot stress it enough. And really, it's so simple. People want to overcomplicate diet, but it's just eating whole food sources, making sure you're getting enough protein, enough carbs, because most people don't eat enough carbs. They think they are. When I dig into it, they're overeating fats 90% of the time. And then all the carnivore bros want to fucking jerk each other off and argue over it. You don't need that much fat in your diet, especially on TRT. You're already producing hormones by injecting them. You don't need the extra fat in your diet. Once again, a gram of protein is 4 calories. A gram of carbs is 4 calories and generally stored as glycogen. It takes a lot of energy to break down protein. Those two don't get stored as fat very often. What gets stored as fat? Fucking fats. Each gram of fat is at 9 calories, more than double. So how much easier is that getting stored as fucking fat? How much easier is it to push yourself over your calorie budget by using fucking fats, like overeating fats? You know, a small bag of potato chips in the gas station. It's what, like 12 grams of fat? That's like a quarter of your daily fucking intake of fat already, just from that little fucking bag of potato chips. You see how easy it is? And most people don't eat just one little tiny bag like that. They eat half the fucking big bag in a day. Next thing you know, you've eaten 150, 200 grams of fat. Multiply that by 9, and you're not even taking into account the protein and the carbs and everything else you ate throughout the day. So yeah, it's generally fats people overeat that causes a lot of problems. But I would definitely look at the diet part of it, and you want to have a good stable amount of protein, generally about 1 pound per gram of body weight. Unless you're fat, then it might be your target weight, or your lean mass is the best thing to set it to. But if you've never been lean, you don't know what your lean mass is. So like someone like me, I'm like, okay, I'm going to eat 1.5 times my lean mass. Like I always look like I'm over 200 pounds, but I have the fucking tiny ass bone structure, I guess. So for me, like 175 is where I look the best, like in my opinion. So I would set mine there 1.5 times that. And then your carbs fill in the rest, because then you set your fats pretty low. And the way I do the diet, I don't include your fat from meats because you can't measure it. So like when you go to a butcher shop and there's 93 and 96% beef, the way they measure it in the butcher shop is they just look at it and say, oh, that's 93. That's 96. They don't know. And then you cook it off. You don't know what's actually in there. You can't measure it statistically. So we're just going to pretend it doesn't exist and get everything else precise and measured. So that way, when we go to do the diet, we're measuring the stuff we can measure and control, and I can make changes on that. And then that's just a constant. So think of that as a constant variable. The fat, we don't fuck with that. We just count the added fats. So fats from avocado, oil, nuts, things like that. We'll count those fats. If you're getting more fat than what's even on there, just we can't measure it. If there was an accurate way to measure it precisely on every single cut of meat you eat, yeah, sure, but we'd fucking track it, but there's no way to actually do that. And then nutrition facts can be 20% off anyway, so it's not worth it. We just kick that one to the side, measure the other components of it, and then from there, I just manage it for you. So every single week, you're going to check in and we're going to dial that in. So if he's not doing something like that, where he is really dialing in your diet and making changes weekly and doing the body fat assessments with you, then that's why. Because I made so many videos on this too. 99% of trainers and coaches don't use data. They just go off of scale weight and how you fucking feel. No wonder why most of their fucking clients flame out or don't fucking get to where they want to get to. My video on Tony, I know Tony's one of my best transformations, 50 pounds of fat in 19 weeks, and he wasn't even fucking perfect. There were times I had to get on his ass about doing his cardio or making sure the diet was dialed in. He was having some digestive issues at one point too. So it's like, even in an imperfect world, when we take all the data, we reverse engineer everything, and we make the plan based on that, we can still drop 50 pounds in 19 weeks without making extreme changes, because it's all data. It's just numbers. You're just playing off your fucking numbers. Same thing when you're doing business, finance, anything else. If you know your numbers, you know how to make smart decisions. Obviously, projections can change a little bit, and that's kind of what happened there. Like projections, yeah. He would have been projected to lose more fat if he did his steps and did his cardio for 2 of the 3 weeks he didn't. If he wasn't fucking off that 1 week with his diet, like we could have lost more. The projection changed a little bit, but we were able to get him back on track because we knew the numbers. Definitely look into that. And then obviously 99.99999% of trainers are never going to look at your blood work. And 100% of them will never look at your fucking genetic data. I would look at a program, with me, great, if you want to, but any program that has those components would be what I would look at. And then also, if you are older, I assume if you're paying them that much, you're probably better off financially. So definitely look at somebody who would dial in peptides, TRT, look at your testosterone. There's so many different variables that get missed all the time. And, you know, weight loss is just calories in, calories out. Actual fat loss, performance, and muscle gain, there's a lot more variables to that. So you need to look at those variables to get that look overall. And the last one is your testing like Grant Cardone's 10x methylation test. No, Grant Cardone's test fucking sucks, first of all. Yeah, him and Gary Brecka, I think, teamed up for it. Of course, I can respect some of the stuff he's done in business and everything, but the thing with the methylation test is it's a big money grab. They do one part of the gene testing and it has all the buzzwords in there, and then people want to like extrapolate that into their whole gene profile, but it's so cheap to run just a methylation test, and they charge like $700 for it, so there's a ton of markup on just that methylation portion. I think we test like over 30 different reports, and that's one of them. So what do you think about it? Yeah, it gives you all the nice little buzzwords and stuff that you're sensitive to, etc. There is some useful information in the methylation test, don't get me wrong, but the reason why is because it's easier to market the methylation test alone than the entire thing, and it's at a price point where most people can afford it, so they can bring it to mass market easier. Whereas real genome sequencing is going to be more expensive, more time intensive to get done, but it's going to give you so much more data and allow you to tap into things. I put it on the same tier as, you know, your 23andMe's and Ancestry.com, all those. Yes, you can see your ancestry tree, like cool, great. It's not telling you much more than that. It's more for fun. Let's put it that way. So like if you want a fun test to do, sure, fine. If you want real actionable data to go off of, not as much, honestly. But their big thing, I think, too, is they have a telehealth service in the back end, so they're going to try to sell you into that. Don't know how the clinic is. I haven't ever talked to anybody who used them. Game Day is the one that people always complain about that I get. Apparently, they're pretty light on the blood work and stuff too. So yeah, some of those clinics charge an arm and a leg. Like I've heard guys pay up to $600 for testosterone. It's insane. I had one guy paying $1,600 for glutathione. A client I just signed on was paying $8K for 4 months at a clinic, and then he got his blood work back, and they did a test that might have cost $100. Like, it's just a fucking scam at some of them with the markups. Be wary of who you choose for clinics. Do your research on them for sure. If you're going to go with the TRT clinic, you want somebody who's actually going to take care of you and not just trying to pump margins up. And then this other guy, when I just signed, that I was talking about, they were also doing that shit where they put him on TRT and clomiphene at the same time. Crashed his estrogen. He felt like shit, and I'm like, why? Like, there's so many stupid decisions they make because they just want to sell you extra shit. So they put him on clomiphene and Arimidex at the same time, and testosterone, and they're just adding all these things on top to make you pay more for no real value. You want to make sure that you're choosing a clinic that's actually making decisions based on your blood work and your data, not just prescribing a bunch of shit just to mark up the price and then not actually fixing why you feel like shit. He said, yeah, the first couple weeks felt great, and then after that I feel like shit, and they just never changed anything. It's like the chiropractors. Yes, you feel great after an adjustment, but then you go back to them and you keep going for years and years. They never fix the problem, so why are we going to them? Like, a lot of times it's psychology. You get used to doing something, it becomes a routine, and that's why I always knock these coaches with the payment plans too. Like, they try to get those payment plans from clients because they'll just bill your credit card over and over again. You don't think about it, and then you look back 2 years later, you're like, fuck, I never made any progress. To me, it's always like, look for a coach that's going to make you put your best foot forward, go all in. They want the payment up front or some kind of split pay. Puts the onus on them too, because they want to perform if they've already paid. If you pay me up front, like, I want to go in, do my best, go super fucking hard for you to get you that result as fast as possible because you already put the onus on me. Versus a payment plan, it's like, I'm getting paid anyway next month. Psychologically, it's not that same mindset when you're going for it. And anybody who's in my program understands that too. And I'm sure a lot of big business guys get that too. Like if I hop on a sales call with somebody, for me to get into a program, like when I hopped on mine with one of my business coaches, like I'm only hopping on there when I already know I'm going to move forward. Like I need this. This is what we need. This is what I need. Just confirm everything that I've seen from your content, that you're the same person behind the camera at that point, and I'm going to move forward. I'm not here to waste time and hop on calls and fuck around. And a lot of my guys are the same exact way. I'm not hopping on a call unless like I know this is for me ahead of time and I'm going to go for it. And that's what you need to have, that kind of a mindset. Like, hey, I'm going to go all in. Let's fucking kill this. Got off topic as always. And I think we're at 37 minutes now. See, I told you 9 questions is too much for me. If you guys enjoyed this, let me know in the comments down below any other questions you had. I'm going to probably try to do these a little more often again. I've been dealing a lot with Meta lately. It's like every time I get things set up, something else happens. Like I've got my credit card swiped. I've had accounts reported by bad actors who filed false copyright claims. Go fit. This is all since January. Credit card stolen, the copyright claim. I had myself marked as spam and then got an account taken down. How to get that back. And then James Capola sent his followers to report a bunch of posts and send death threats to try to get you to respond to them. They're also doing that to Garrett too. Be careful if you interact with them. They'll put stuff about CP and other underhanded stuff in there to try to get you to respond so they can report the message. And then somebody hacked into my ads account and got that shut down. So now I have to work with that too because they're trying to run their own ads under the card that got stolen. So I kind of fucked them in the back end because they tried to run ads on my card that got stolen and got shut down. But I got my ads account shut down for fraudulent activities. So now I have to go deal with that. That is why there has not been as many YouTube videos out lately because I've been on the phone with Meta for hours and hours every damn day lately. But hopefully we're at the very end of that. They've given me enhanced account security on both my Instagram and my Facebook. And I'm verified and everything else. So hopefully back to more of this. And then I had that one video coming out with the editor very soon on Epitalon. Be ready for that one. And then I have one scripted out and ready for testosterone too, because I am the worst one when it comes to assuming people know all the stuff I do. And then people ask me really basic questions that I realize, man, I got to take it back to the basics. So I'll get you guys filled in more on that too. See you in the next one.